There has been a lot of talk about the death of physical media in gaming, with Sony essentially killing physical media for PlayStation games going forward from January 2028 and beyond, and that extends to third-party games because they're the ones who print the discs. You also have Microsoft with Game Pass, that's all digital, a rental service, and then they tried to just flat out destroy physical games when it comes to used games, more like it, when it comes to the original Xbox One reveal, and even to a degree here with the game key cards, getting rid of having the data on the actual cart. Now, Nintendo still has their own physical games that they do, and most of their games are, and third-party developers are realizing that, yeah, you know what, maybe we'll take a little bit less, or a lot bit less, when it comes to the sale of a physical cart, because the fans are more willing to buy those over game key cards depending on the game and to a degree. So I think that when it comes to all of the big three, there's issues across the board. But one thing that we found out with the most recent numbers from Nintendo is that physical is here to stay, at least for them. I don't see it going anywhere based on the amount of money Nintendo is making and based off of the perception that Nintendo gives, or the perception of the collecting aspect that I think is integral and vital to what Nintendo does just as a company, as they sell a lot of merch. They're probably the top merch sales people when it comes to shirts and physical objects between the big three, with video game stuff related to that. So I do feel that there's more to this, because there was some numbers that were being floated around, and it was from Nintendo's financial report saying that 61.5% of its sales are digital. But there's more to it than that. It's not that simple, especially when you start comparing it to Sony and the differences there. So I'm going to talk about that, the breakdown, what happened, what people are saying, and the actual kind of truth behind it, and what you ultimately need to know. And we've also got some other Nintendo Switch 2 updates when it comes to big games like Onimusha and the next Sonic title. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, let's get into this here. Shoutouts to Genki for the first post, then we're going to move over to Daniel Ahmed as he elaborated on it. So on his post with the Nintendo digital sales, the financial report here, Nintendo gives a interesting breakdown between the physical and the digital splits, which we will get into. But Genki says Nintendo reports that 61.5% of its sales are digital, up 2.2% from the same quarter last year. Now, there was a community note put on there, and it says that the 61.5% figure is the proportion of digital sales to total dedicated video game platform software sales, not to Nintendo's total net sales. So that is confusing for a lot of people, and Daniel Ahmed saw that, quote tweeted the post, and had this to add, and this kind of breaks it down as simple as it can be. And like I said, at the end of this, I will let you guys the big takeaway when it comes to all of this with physical games. Is Nintendo going to kill off the medium? Is there going to be a big problem? Maybe even next generation? Well, we'll talk about that. So Daniel Ahmed says, seeing a lot of people misunderstand what the number means and compare it to the 82% figure from PlayStation. So here's the breakdown to explain the difference. 1. The 61.5% figure cannot be directly compared to Sony's 82% figure. The PlayStation figure represents the unit sales share of digital full game downloads versus all packaged and digital games. The Nintendo figure is revenue, and it includes revenue from digital game sales, add-on content, microtransactions, DLC, and Nintendo Switch Online. Number 2, so they're fundamentally flawed in the comparison there just based on the metrics or the pretense of it. Now, number 2, Nintendo breaks out its revenue differently than Sony. Here are the 3 main categories: packaged software revenue, physical; digital revenue for games that have packaged physical release; digital only games, add-on content, and Nintendo Online revenue. Nintendo generated 215 billion yen, or about 1.35 billion, from total software and subscription sales during April-June 2026 quarter. Packaged software revenue accounted for 83 billion yen, or around 39% of total software and services revenue. Digital versions of games that had a packaged release generated 84 billion yen, representing around 39% of total software and services revenue, or approximately 50% of total packaged plus digital revenue for games that have both a physical and digital release. Digital only add-on content and Nintendo Online generated 48.6 billion yen, or 22% of the total software and services revenue. In other words, Nintendo is earning more from digital versions of games that have released at retail than they do from digital only games, add-on content, and Nintendo Online. So that is a very big differentiating factor right there. Now, number 3, these numbers aren't comparable, unfortunately. Because of the way Nintendo recognizes revenue versus Sony, it's hard to do a like-for-like comparison. It's also difficult to break down the actual sales split for digital versus physical for Nintendo for both revenue and units due to differences in how package revenue is recognized versus digital. But here's the main takeaway, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Just like with every console, digital sales continue to increase with each generation, and the Switch 2 is no different. We are getting to the point to where digital unit sales can often represent around 50% of unit sales versus physical release. Ultimately, there's no threat of Nintendo stopping physical game releases anytime soon because they continue to make up a very notable percentage of revenue. However, Nintendo's current issue with physical is purely down to the format and costs associated with it, which is why you're seeing cheaper game key cards plus higher price cartridges to maintain margin for packaged game releases. And that was the thing that we were talking about earlier. What is the alternative? What is the solution? Because yes, the memory costs are skyrocketing and a lot of developers do not want to pay the amounts when it comes to like maybe 17 to 20 something dollars per card. I mean, that is expensive. Your margins are really bad. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to make some profit when it comes to the physical games. But at the same time, once again, if you can sell more games, or if you can actually get the, I would say, assurance from fans that they're going to continue buying physical games, it will be worth it for these publishers and these developers to invest into the physical game market. Now, obviously, Sony sees things differently when it comes to what they're doing. However, the production costs of Blu-rays are significantly cheaper than a physical cartridge. So I do feel that just like Mr. Daniel Ahmed says, you can't compare them side by side. You also can't compare the scenarios side by side when it comes to a physical cartridge on a Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to costs compared to a physical disc with PlayStation. So I do think that in this respect, Nintendo understands, because of what Daniel said earlier with physical games versus digital games that have a mirroring retail, Nintendo is seeing that a lot of those games are doing well. People are double dipping to some degree. People are buying digital and physical special editions and stuff like that. So I do believe Nintendo has every single incentive in every single way, because of how fans are purchasing things and because of how they account for stuff when it comes to packaged retail versus digital only versus Nintendo Switch Online. I feel that Nintendo has no need to get rid of physical anytime soon, this generation or even next generation. Now, I've had people come to my stream and tell me that they feel that Nintendo's going to get rid of physical this generation, where in the next 2 years or 3 years, we're going to see them get rid of physical games. But based off of this data here, there's no way that's going to happen. And if you look at it, this is once again a super prime opportunity for Nintendo to completely, I mean, they've already done it, but to completely take hold of the retail market to a degree. Now, yes, you're going to have still old games like Xbox One or Xbox Series games. You're going to have PS5 games. PS5 is going to be around for a long time. So you're going to have used games. You're going to have stuff from the past. But this is the prime opportunity Nintendo needs to really grab a hold and say, we're going to do something so pro-consumer and we're going to support physical games for the foreseeable future. Nintendo, once again, is very different. They make weird things. They made a talking flower. I bought a talking flower from them, a physical packaged talking flower. They make an alarm clock. Who buys alarm clocks in these days when you have cell phones? But Nintendo said, hey, you know what? it'd be a good idea to make a physical alarm clock. Once again, they generate so much revenue with physical objects. I think it's just in their DNA from when they became Nintendo, the Hanafuna cards, to when Mr. Gunpei Yokoi decided to make the Ultra Hand and all of those physical products. They've been making actual things that you hold in your hand one way or another for so long. I think it's just in their DNA to do that. So I don't believe that Nintendo's going to get rid of the package software anytime soon. I think they believe in having the box and having the box art and having the cartridge and displaying it. They believe in that type of stuff. And I think that with these numbers that we're seeing here, as long as us, the gamers, speak up with our voice and speak up with our wallet and let them know and purchase the physical games that come out physical when it comes to Nintendo's first party that we enjoy or that we like or that we find interesting, not just buying it just to buy it, but also the third party games that are high quality, that are good, that come out good reviews and people are enjoying it. I think that's when you kind of look and say, okay, let's support that and things will keep going. Lies of P, for example, just launched fantastic Nintendo Switch 2 port of the game, 86 plus rating, so it's actually doing really well, and that's getting a physical later in the year. You can definitely support that. We're seeing physicals for a lot more games this year announced than what we got for last year because gamers are speaking up, but not only just speaking up, but also purchasing those games too. So I believe that Nintendo, once again, has no incentive to really take away physical games based off of the numbers that we're seeing here. And even if they do go more slided towards digital in the future, whether that's 60+% or 70%, I do feel that there's always a multi-million-dollar market for people to be able to buy physical games. And I think that there's nothing wrong with providing those options. If anything, it's going to make you more money than it's going to make you less. Yes, digital is rising, but that does not mean that there needs to be the erasure of physical media and give all control to one place to where you can buy games. That's nonsense. It's silly. I think that it's anti-consumer. I don't like that at all when it comes to that. So I do believe Nintendo's going to continue here with physical games. But speaking of games, let's talk about Onimusha, Way of the Sword from Capcom, because we've got the first extended gameplay footage from the Nintendo Switch 2 version of this samurai game. So the first gameplay emerged for the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Onimusha, Way of the Sword, which is launching pretty soon. I think it's like September, early September. And now we have footage available for both docked play and handheld mode. You can even get a quick look at the optional mouse controls Capcom is including. Onimusha Way of the Sword will hit up to 30 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2. There will be an option for a variable 30 to 40 FPS as well. So here's a little bit more of an overview of the game. Fight through blood-stained battlefields of intense swordplay action. Explore the historic Japanese capital of Edo period Kyoto, twisted by demented clouds of malice. Every stage cloaked in mystery, danger, and intrigue. Battle against monstrosities from the underworld known as Genma in a tale of dark fantasy. Follow the tale of a samurai who wields the Oni Gauntlet, a mystical artifact that grants its bearer power to slay Genma. Through gritty, blood-soaked brawls, he searches for his reason to fight. What fate awaits at the end of his path? The protagonist, Miyamoto Musashi, an ardent samurai who arrives in Kyoto looking to prove that he is the unmatched in the way of the sword. However, the path before him takes a strange and unexpected turn. The protagonist of this game is a fierce young samurai, constantly moving from one bloody and gritty fight to the next. To cement his image of the striking samurai, Capcom has turned to none other than the late iconic Japanese samurai movie legend Toshiro Mifune to star as the face model for this rendition of Miyamoto Musashi. So this is awesome, man. This game is looking super cool. I love the setting. I love the core aspect of the combat. The demo is out there. People are playing it. It seems like it's really fun. The Genma, the enemies look really cool too. So there's a lot of good stuff about this. Capcom with that RE engine is putting in some nice work. It's not going to run at the 60 FPS plus that you get on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, but for a hybrid version of the game, graphically and frame rate wise, this is really good. 30 to 40 FPS. I think that if you're playing in portable mode, that VRR is going to smooth things out quite a bit. So it's going to be a nice, I would say, hybrid type of style game to play. It looks great. It's great to have Onimusha back after all of these years, and I'm looking forward to checking it out on the Nintendo Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5. I will be picking both of them up. We'll see when I get each one of them. Probably not both at launch. Probably just the Switch 2 version first, just so I can review that and check it out. And then I will probably pick up a PS5 version physical when it's a bit cheaper or something like that. So awesome stuff here. Looking forward to playing Onimusha, Way of the Sword, but I'm also looking forward to seeing what's happening with the next Sonic game. So the Sonic team has talked about what's happening here because they are going to do an iterative sequel with the next Sonic title. So the next Sonic game will further evolve the Sonic Frontiers open zone formula. This is from Sonic Frontiers director, Mr. Kishimoto. So let's go and get into the whole question and the thought process first and what Mr. Kishimoto had to say. So one question asks whether Kishimoto felt the team had succeeded with their attempt at open zone gameplay and expressed hope that the next game would allow players to explore an even more evolved version of that concept. And he said, quote, "Yes, I definitely felt we had something there," Kishimoto said. "In the next title as well, we'll work hard to achieve an evolution that meets everyone's expectations and surpasses you even more." So I think that while I did not love Sonic Frontiers, I can see the potential kind of spread throughout the game. I think graphically it looks great if you're playing on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series PC. Nintendo Switch 1 and to a degree Nintendo Switch 2, not so much. Definitely not Nintendo Switch 1. So I'm hoping that they can exceed our expectations when it comes to the Switch 2 version of this game. Now, it's been 4 years, it's going on 4 years since Sonic Frontiers released, so I'm pretty sure they've been working on this next game. Sonic Frontiers did really well. It sold, I think, around 5 million units plus now at this point. I know that it's done really good for a Sonic game when it comes to the sales numbers for 3D Sonic. So I think that they have the time and money and investment, and I would say know how to evolve that gameplay and make it even better for the next one. So I think that it's a building block. I think the problem with Sonic 3D games in the past, at least in the recent past, is that they always try to reinvent the wheel with every single Sonic game, and they've done this a few times before where they kind of just try to do these crazy new concepts and it doesn't really work out, or they scrap engines and start anew, or they try to do a completely different concept. They don't evolve some of the gameplay ideas and stuff that they have. Now, they've done that before, like with the storybook games or something like that, but for the most part, a lot of the Sonic games, like Sonic Forces, for example, just kind of do something wildly different, and it's not evolved from what they've done before, so you get unrefined gameplay ideas. But with this game, Sonic Frontiers, they did a good job, at least at the ground-based level, and we'll see what they do now, taking that same engine, taking everything, the same concept, and evolving that. I think it's going to be a better game this time around. So what do you think about everything that we talked about here with the Nintendo Switch 2 digital versus physical dilemma? What's going on with Onimusha? And of course, Sonic? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.